Hey guys, I'm back with another video, another beginner chess game analysis video. I think this marks number 16. It's actually been just about a year since my last video. It's kind of funny. Partly why I haven't made any of these in a while is because it's two reasons. First, I was getting so many new personal bests that I had a huge queue of videos scheduled. I was posting them every few days, and I had dozens of videos that I had posted, so I didn't need any other content created. The other reason is it's actually hard to find people that actually would want these free game analysis videos done for them. I've recently just asked on Reddit, the chess subreddit, to see if anybody would like some videos done. So I have a few ready to go now. But if you would like me to do a analysis video for you and you are under, you're about 1750 Lichess or under, or maybe 1500chess.com or under, just shoot me a message and I'll put you on the list and I will do a video for you in the future, free of charge. What did I want to mention? Oh yeah, since it's also been a year since my last video in this series, I've actually climbed about 100 points on average on most of my time controls. So I'm actually a little bit stronger than previously when I did these videos before. So just as a disclaimer though, for anyone that's watching, I'm on average across all time controls, I would say about 2050 on average. So I'm not a titled player or anything like that. Just keep that in mind when listening to me. So yeah, I think we can get started here. It's gonna be kind of annoying. I'm gonna have to make that little intro on every single video. It's gonna be annoying, but okay. So this first game is from a user. Well, let's take a look at his account here, and I might sneeze in a second. Firilikins, I guess that's how you pronounce it. He requested a game. So first, I just want to quickly mention he doesn't have very many games in here yet, but I do like that he's focusing a bit more on the longer time controls. I would just caution to really limit how much you play bullet and blitz. Try to stick with the longer time controls. I noticed that I'm not sure who I should direct this video to, if I should speak directly to Firilikins or to the general public. I'll probably do both, but yeah, so Firilikins, I think you should try to do a little bit more classical if you can. The longer time control you play, the better. And bullet and blitz are fun, but just realize they'll do very little for your improvement, almost nothing. So stick to the longer time controls. Okay, so let's take a look at your game here. I didn't look at it yet. I didn't look at it before I started the video or anything. I'm not using the engine to analyze it, although I might in some portions. So Firilikins is white here, and I guess I see the result of the game. He actually won the game, which is interesting. I would probably advise most of you, generally, your submissions should probably be your losses. You learn more from your losses than your wins, so it's kind of funny that he won this game. But okay, let's take a look here. Okay, so I'm a Roy Lopez player myself, so maybe I can provide some decent insight here. So far so good. D6, I think this is the old Steinitz variation. And you can do a number of things, I think namely C3 and D4. You can probably castle as well. Knight C3, I'm not familiar with this move because I think here I play C3 myself. So Knight C3, nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong. So I'm not going to complain because it's a legit move. But at the same time, just if you wanted some other ideas here, pushing a pawn such as D4 kind of creates a little bit more of a direct threat to black. I mean, again, nothing wrong with Knight C3, I believe, but just some other considerations. You might want to maybe just put a little bit more more of a, I don't want to say a direct threat, but it kind of pushing a pawn in the center kind of creates a little bit more immediate problems for black, because you are controlling the center with pawns, and you are also preparing to open up the center more immediately than with a move like knight c3. But I'm just giving you other options as alternative ideas instead of playing knight c3. You could also just castle here or c3, which c3 kind of a multi-purpose move, but essentially it's to beef up a future d4. But knight c3, nothing wrong with that. So kind of you don't pay a huge amount of attention to what I just said. Okay, so this is the first move I don't like. So just taking a peek here at the book moves, it's actually been played about almost a quarter of the time, which I'm a little bit surprised about. Computer doesn't mind it actually, which is interesting. Yeah, computer is suggesting, yeah, so computer doesn't hate it, but for me personally, this is, unless I know the theory behind this move and I've studied this beforehand, and I would never take on c6 here. Again, unless this is a theoretical move that I've studied. And I've touched on this in a number of other videos, but unless you have a specific purpose of taking a knight with a bishop, generally you don't really want to do that. So if you had a reason to do this, like let's say you take and then you were going to immediately follow up by capturing a pawn or creating another threat, unless you have a purpose, you shouldn't take. And here, personally, I don't see what we are achieving by taking the knight. Generally, and of course it depends on the position and everything, but generally bishops are just slightly better than knights. So I don't really want to trade my bishop for a knight unless I'm getting something out of it. And here I don't see what we are gaining out of this. Again, it's been played 3 times in the database, but you know, there could be some very tiny reasons why that might be. It could be the people trying to play get their opponent out of book and so on, or they might have found a novelty in the position. But personally, I don't really like taking the knight here. Again, we're not really achieving anything out of it. If anything, I think we're losing. It's called losing the minor exchange because, again, bishops are generally regarded as slightly better than a knight. That's one thing that lower rated players will do. They have a hard time not taking. If they're able to take, they often will just take, just for the sake of taking, or maybe because they don't have to think as much. So they're like, okay, it's an equal trade. You know, 3 points, it's an equal trade. But if you're not gaining anything out of a move, don't play it. You have to be gaining something out of every move you play. So, okay, so that's just one thing. So as an alternative move here, I'm thinking, I just want to hide, the book database there. I'm thinking just even a simple move as castling would be fine. Maybe a consideration of d4 now, but I think a nice principled move here would be simply to castle. That's what I would think. But yeah, so I don't like taking on c6 personally. Okay, castling looks good to me. d3, nice solid move in my opinion. Another move that you might have wanted to consider here, and it'd probably be the first move I would consider, is d4. Breaking open the center. So my reasoning is, it's first of all, we're starting to fight more for the center instead of just d3. To me personally, is a little timid. You know, okay, just move up 1 square. You don't get as much of the center back. You're opening up the bishop, which is good. you're defending e4, which is good, but I think d4 is maybe a little bit more combative. And you know, if e takes, and then we can take with the knight, and now we're attacking his bishop. You can note that e4 is defended by our other knight on c3. So d4, ed, knight takes, and suddenly he needs to move the bishop if he doesn't want to trade the bishop for the knight. And he doesn't really have a great square. He'd probably have to go back to d7 if he wants to keep the bishop. And then white has gained the initiative with that little series of moves. So I'll just show you how it might look. So again, there might be alternative moves here that I'm not considering, like possibly, well, I don't know, because I don't see a great alternative, but there might be some other moves. But probably he has to go back to d7, and then again, I think this is probably what I would play, just looking at it now, because now white has a little bit more space than with your d3 move. And maybe a follow-up would be something like just bishop e3, put the queen on d2, and get the rooks in the center and proceed from there. That looks pretty good to me. So again, I think d3 is a totally solid move. Nothing wrong with it, in my opinion. But personally, I would play d4 here. Let's just take a peek at what the engine thinks. So I'm not going to let it run super deep. Can you guys see that? Oh, you can't. I would have to go here. Yeah, so it's liking d4. Look at the big difference. 0.7 for d4, and d3 is actually equal. So I said it's perfectly fine. For beginners, it's perfectly fine, because there's, you know, you're completely solid. But as you can see, d3 creates an equal evaluation. So it means that black is equal here to white, whereas d4, the engine likes much better. You have to let it catch up here, but it's about half a pawn, or even more than half a pawn, about 3/4 of a pawn if you let it run deep enough. So I'll just turn off the engine here. So you can kind of see the engine agrees with me. So again, the difference between those two moves, d3 for beginners, lower rated players, there's nothing. Oh no, skipped frames. Okay, sorry. I guess once I put the engine on, my streaming software did not like that I'm recording this video for. So I hope that wasn't too choppy there. Okay, sorry. So I'm not going to use the engine anymore for that reason. But yeah, as a recap, this d3 is a move that's totally fine for lower rated players. And hang on, I'm just going to I'm going to pause this other, or mute this other tab. Someone keeps messaging me. Okay, sorry about that. And I'll get rid of this error message. Okay, so no more engine, because that screwed things up there. And we go back here. Okay, so, but the computer did agree with me of d4 just being a little bit more combative. So a summary again of that is d3 totally fine, but d4, it creates more of a problem for black, because white is getting a bit more space now and is creating a bit of conflict in the center, and we're threatening. Well, first of all, if black recaptures, we saw that we kind of get to move with tempo and get a bit more space. And we're also threatening, I guess we're threatening DE. So if it was our move again, that's the way I like to think, kind of if we got two free moves. So if we got another free move here, I'm guessing we're threatening to take, and then we're going to win a pawn after D. Well, I can I not show it on, can I not move it? Oh, sorry, it's our move. Yeah, so let's just say he makes a random move. We're threatening to take again. This is our threat, right? So if he recaptures, we could just trade queens and then win a pawn here. So there's multiple reasons why d4 is a stronger move, but it's just a little bit more aggressive and putting a bit more problems to black. Okay, moving on. I'm probably spending too much time on these small details, so I'll probably skip some of these ideas. Okay, so bishop g5, again, it's not a blunder, it's not a mistake, but personally, I think it's kind of an inaccuracy. Often when you put a bishop, like it's thematic to do it in the Royal Pez when you play bishop bishop b5 on move 3, I think it was. But generally, when you make a move like this, oftentimes, eventually, you're going to end up taking the knight. It just works out that way. Because eventually, your opponent is going to play a move that forces your bishop to make a decision, something like h6. And then, so let's just go with that scenario. Bishop g5, which is what you played. Let's say he plays h6 here. You basically have 3 choices. You could take the knight, which again, we don't really want to do unless we're getting something out of it because we're giving up a bishop for a knight. And bishops are generally slightly better than knights. So that's option 1, which we don't like. Option 2 is to come back somewhere, in which case we're losing a tempo, meaning we spent a move to go out, then we have to spend a move back to retreat, and then it's black's move again. So he basically gets a free move, or we're losing a tempo. And then the other option would be go to a4, which you might think is decent, but what are we achieving with that, right? Where again, it's black's move after that. So what did we achieve by moving the bishop here? When there's no pin, and I don't see what we're gaining out of that. If anything, whoops, I didn't mean to make a move there. If anything, we might be setting ourselves up for h6 and then g5, and then there might be some type of kingside pawn storm in the future. So generally, yeah, you don't want to make a move like this unless you can get something out of it. So what's an alternative move? Well, the first thing that comes to mind, but immediately I refute it, and God, this video is going to be long, is bishop e3, just getting the bishop off the back rank. What I don't like about it immediately is knight g4 might possibly be problematic. So let's see, what's another move I might consider here? Well, possibly h3, which takes care of that. So h3 might prepare bishop e3. So, now the knight can't come into g4 to kick out the bishop. It's a little bit prophylactic, though, a little bit slow, so I might look for something else. Possibly rook e1, just developing the rook. Eventually, this file might open up, so I might want to put the rook here. Another move which I might consider, personally, I wouldn't really give this too much consideration, but something you might want to consider possibly is b3, fianchettoing the bishop this way. But generally, I don't like to play that way in a Roy Lopez. So the 2 main moves I'd be looking at here would be rook e1 and h3. There's one more move which I would consider, but it doesn't work, so I wouldn't. But I would still consider, I would look at d4 just to see what we could do there, but you can see it doesn't work after ed, knight takes, and e5 is hit twice. Yeah, so rook e1 or h3 is what I would play here. So yeah, I don't really like bishop g5 too much, but it's not a blunder. It's just a small inaccuracy, in my opinion. Yeah, so there we go. You took. So that's what this is exactly what happened. So eventually your bishop is going to get challenged and you're going to kind of be forced to take. And then look what happened. Look what happened here now. Now your opponent has the bishop pair and you don't even have any bishops. You have 2 knights. So this is like terrible in my opinion. It's only move 9 and your opponent has 2 bishops and you have 2 knights. And both of those were your own doing. You voluntarily chose to do that. So I noticed that I'm talking in directly to Firilikins now. If you guys would rather me talk to a general audience instead of directly to the player, let me know in the comments. Okay, so he retook. Let's see what you play. Oh. Knight d2, what's that? What's that? Okay, I'm guessing you want to play f4, which isn't a bad idea. It's not a terrible idea, and that's something that I used to play when I was lower rated. but I don't like, it's not something I would play now. Again, I don't think it's a terrible idea, you know, planning f4, but just thinking, I'm just thinking long term, is it really worth a whole move to set this up? So like, let's say f4 and then he takes and then rook takes. I'm not sure what your exact game plan is after that. Maybe queen f1 and then bring in the knights. It's not a terrible idea. I kind of want to put on the engine to see what it thinks of that, but a move that I would consider instead, I'm thinking, would be possibly still rook e1, because I think we might still want to break through in the center, you know, with d4. So for example, if we had a rook on e1, and then if we had another free move, let's say d4, if takes, knight takes, suddenly our knights are doing a little bit more work here. We have a rook on a semi-open file. We might be able to eventually, maybe we could play knight f5 then and get something going there. So yeah, maybe rook e1 and d4 might be an idea. Okay. Okay, yeah, so I don't like this. I don't really like this decision by black. He trades off one of his bishops, but it's not the worst move in the world. But I think I would want to hang on to the bishops here, especially because I think this light squared bishop is better than the dark one here, so I wouldn't want to trade that one off, especially. Okay, so you go to trade queens. I don't mind this decision. I think that's a good move. Because black has better development than white. He has a queen in the center. So getting into a more even endgame is not a bad idea here. It's because, again, if you look at the queens, black's queen is a lot better than white's. So if you could trade those off, white gains equality here, because I feel white is a little bit behind in this position slightly. And black decides to trade. Yeah, it's hard for lower rated players to not trade pieces. That's one characteristic. C3. Okay, so that's just a blunder, right? Because you dropped the d pawn. So that's just a mistake that happens at lower levels. And he doesn't take it. So okay, so that's kind of funny. Oh, I should mention, you're playing way too quick. That's a huge issue. This is a 10-minute game, and this is 10-0, and you've spent 34 seconds to make 14 moves. So you've spent 2 seconds on average per move. You're playing this like a bullet game, literally. So you got to slow the hell down. Slow the hell down, and you will increase in rating point probably like 200 points, or well, I shouldn't say probably, but I wouldn't be surprised if you gain 200 points just by slowing down, or 100 points, you know. So you got to slow way down. Yeah, you spent 34 seconds to play half the game. You're in an end game now, and you spent 34 seconds. You got to slow down. Otherwise, why are you playing 10-minute games? The whole point of playing longer time control games is to think more. So you got to use your time to think. You're playing way too quick. You know, okay, so I just noticed that now. And if you took your time to think here, like you spent 4 seconds on this move. If you spend more than 4 seconds, maybe you won't drop the pawn. Sorry, that kind of bugged me, because that's one of my pet peeves when people don't slow down, because it's so easy to fix. Just slow down. You just slow down, and it's gonna fix so many things for you. Okay, so I'm going to speed up on some of these moves because it's already a 25-minute video. B4 is not my favorite move here for a number of reasons, which I don't want to get into too specifically. But, you know, if maybe black takes, you take, okay, you have an open C file, which is nice. But what you've done with that is now you have an isolated D pawn, and that's a weakness. That's a weakness for white, because, you know, maybe black will double up on the D file and target it, and it's just a weakness. So excuse me, I'm not sure what I might consider instead. Yeah. Possible. I mean, my instinct is to double up on the D file, and then possibly go for D4. I might consider that. What worries me? There's a few things that worry me, like E4 and so forth. But doubling up on the D file and then pushing D4, if we got some trades in, that would be good because we eliminate our isolated. Well, we don't have an isolated pawn now, but we would have strength on the D file because we'd be doubled up there, and we would eliminate some of the central control that black currently has. But so that would be an idea that I have. But this is a kind of a hard position to play for white. Another idea I would have, I wouldn't do it immediately, but just an idea, putting this knight here. We can't do it immediately because we drop a pawn. But, you know, if we could somehow eventually get this knight here, that'd be a pretty good square. We're hitting a couple pieces. So a couple of things I would be considering. So I'm a little surprised that he didn't take. I think that's the better choice probably. Yeah, so taking is good. Take. Okay, that looks reasonable. Yeah, but just playing way too quick. Like, just a message for anyone else that sends me games. Hopefully you don't send me a game where you don't use your time, because that really bugs me. And it's such an easy thing to fix. Because again, the game is almost over, and Firilikins have spent a minute. Oh, you guys can't see the clock. Sorry about that. I would have to go to this screen. Okay, but you get the point here. If I go to this screen here, you can see like he's got 9 minutes left. He spent 1 minute on the clock, and the game's almost over. It's insane. Don't play longer time controls if you're not going to use the time. But I want you to play longer time controls. But you got to use the time. You got to use the time. You got to think. You can't just. Oh, it bugs me. It bugs me. Okay, whoops. Hang on here. Okay, let me get back to the other screen. Okay, let's continue quickly. You take the pawn. Okay. It's a good move, actually. There we go. Simplifying now. Okay, so personally, I wouldn't make this trade. I don't think I would want to take the H pawn and give up the C pawn for a number of reasons. First of all, generally the central pawns are a little bit more valuable than the outside pawns. There's exceptions, of course. But you have this nice, like, look at this nice little pawn mass, right? You got these three pawns together. They're going to support each other and climb up and queen. You want these guys together, and the more the merrier, right? Okay, you could argue the same thing for black's pawns. There's three together. The difference is you have two passed pawns here. Well, I guess technically one passed pawn. But, I mean, this pawn isn't going to do anything against these three. Whereas here, you have three pawns and a king to stop the advancements of these pawns. So you're not scared of these pawns. These pawns pose no threat to white. So I would much rather utilize these existing pawns than trade, trading this pawn for this pawn. I don't like. I mean, this is a complete and easy win for white, but even so, it's good to play accurately here. So I wouldn't want to trade the C pawn for that H pawn. So I would. There's different things you could do here. You could give a check, defend that way, but you generally don't want your rook in front of the pawns. You want it to the side or behind. But my instinct would be simply to play rook d3. If he targets your other pawn, you simply push it. And then you can slowly advance those pawns and make progress there. But yeah, I wouldn't trade these. I wouldn't trade this. Okay, you get that. Check. Yeah, I also wouldn't give a check here. So don't just check for the sake of checking. Because by checking, you're helping black. You're helping the opponent here. Now his king is getting where he wants to go. He wants to get up closer to these other pawns. So I wouldn't give a check here. Although I guess you could get behind the pawn. You could argue that. You could argue that you're going for that. If that's your argument, I would allow it. But if this was a bullet game, like I'd probably just come here now. It's too late to save these pawns. Okay, another check. Yeah, so you're just helping the king get closer. So I don't like that. No. So you're lucky that the king went back to the back rank. He should have went forwards. Yeah, so again, trading your awesome pawns for these ones was not a good decision. But it's a complete one game no matter what. You know, just push the pawn. I wouldn't even move the king here. I would just keep pushing the pawn. Like, the pawn just wants a queen. Just get right to it. Yeah, don't just queen the pawn. Just queen the pawn. That's all you have to do. Like, okay, so if he brings up the king, you're worried about that. If he does that, then you could just you can just move the rook back. You know, I would just be pushing the pawn. And if I didn't play h5, then I'd probably play g4, I think. But everything wins here. Oh, so you missed a move here. Sorry, never mind. Giving so many checks. But yeah, because the check doesn't really achieve anything. But okay, everything wins. So I won't spend very much time here. Okay. Okay, inching your way forwards, and you got mate. Okay, so I'm not going to recap this one because this is a pretty long video already. But the two main things that for me come out of this game are, one, your clock management, just terrible. It just kind of bothers me because it's the simplest thing to fix. You don't have to study anything. You don't have to memorize anything. All you have to do is take your time. Just slow down. Just slow down. Playing most of the game in a minute is ridiculous, and it's almost insulting for me to spend time reviewing because you didn't even spend time thinking about the game. You just spit out the moves. Like it's okay. So take your time. And the second thing was value your bishops a little bit more, and don't bring out your bishops and attack a knight and then just trade willy-nilly. There should be a reason for each move. There should be some benefit. There should be some benefit for each move you play. There's almost never a situation in chess where there's not there isn't a benefit for your move. Like maybe you're defending against mate. Well, that's your benefit. You're defending against mate. But there should always be some purposeful point behind the move. Don't just make a move and don't just trade to trade, right? Does a trade benefit you? Does it worsen your opponent? Does it give you more space? Does it give you the bishop pair? Does it allow some tactic after? So there should be a point behind each move. And if you're playing and you're playing one of these longer times and you can't find a good move, you can't think of a move that you think is beneficial, just keep thinking. Use your time. Because yeah, a lot of you play way too quickly and you're just not thinking. You're not thinking, and you gotta think. Okay, anyways, I hope this video helps, and I hope it didn't come across as mean. Yeah, let me know your comments if you have any in the video, and that's going to be it. I'm going to record another video probably after I take a nap. Okay, thank you.